and the Cowboys really don't have the kind of dominant forward pack that the Manly Sea Eagles do. So the Dogs will be able to contain them a lot more. It hurts me, guys, but I'm going to go the Dogs 1-12. Well, sometimes I'm wrong in the best ways. What's happening, guys? It's your boy Burgz here from The Casual Athlete, back at it again for another week of tips and predictions. And the regular season is done and dusted, but it is Christmas for NRL fans. We have the final series coming up. And to bring in the final series, I've brought on one of our friends here on The Casual Athlete, Foody from the Chip and Chase podcast. Mate, Foody, how are you going and how have you seen the season panning out so far?
Oh, mate, I'm going spectacular. It's a pleasure to be here, as always, to join you and talk a bit of footy. Look, season as a whole, as a Warriors fan, you can look at, I guess you can guess how I'm feeling. But as a general footy fan, I've loved the season. The fact that we've come down to that final round and there was so much on the line for so many different clubs is so exciting. And I'm pretty darn happy overall with the top 8. And I think anyone can essentially win it from here.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting final series, no doubt. And obviously, side note for the Warriors, I think probably the best finish you could have asked for as a big Shaun Johnson fan. It'll be sad not to see him suit up next year. But guys, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. And as we always do, Foodie, we like to go through the tips that I personally had last week. I know I don't have your tips from last week, but maybe you can chuck them in a little bit here. But I have my tips here from last week, and we took the Storm on the Thursday night, and they did get a win 13+. So hit on the margin, hit on the tip there. Just the Broncos really a sad end to the season, I think.
I mean, to me, it's pretty fitting end to the season for the Broncos. That's what I sort of wrote down in my notes. Like, it's been a really, really sour season, and to lose against the Dolphins in the way that it did the week before, I also gave them no hope against the Storm here. So, yeah, your tip of 13+, I was with you there, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, I just really didn't see anything from them that would suggest they're going to beat the Storm. And, the Storm probably go into this final series as favourite at this point in time, but we'll get into them in a moment. We took the Tigers in the Spoon Bowl out there at Campbelltown. It probably wasn't one of my smartest tips, but I guess maybe a part of me just really didn't want to see the Tigers get a third spoon in a row. And I think a lot of people were in the same boat. Were you on Parramatta and the Tigers, or the Tigers?
Look, I was on Parramatta from a tipping and betting perspective. Look, I just didn't want to embarrass myself, but I was in the boat of, God, I wanted the Tigers to win. I didn't mind losing money. I didn't mind going down on the tips. I wanted to see the Tigers get up for it. And look, didn't happen, but I was lucky enough to get at least the tip right in that one.
Yeah, possibly a little bit more going with my heart than my head on that one. Not my best showing in the Spoon Bowl. Roosters next, and they got a win. And I had them winning 13+ in this game, and they were doing it right up until that final 10 minutes where the Rabbitohs kind of, put in a few tries to make it a bit closer. For the Rabbitohs, I'd say all in all, a very disappointing season from the lofty expectations that they had. And the Roosters were probably just trying to save face and just make it into the finals with as least amount of injuries as possible.
100%, mate. I think with the Rabbitohs, a lot of that disappointment of their season came quite early on in the season. I think in the second half, if I was a Rabbitohs fan, I'd hold my head high. They've competed without a lot of players out with injury and other circumstances and whatnot. You can never doubt them against the Roosters in the oldest battle in rugby league. I did have the Roosters myself. But it's another game where the Roosters leak a lot of points early, late even, I should say. So it's a bit of a worry heading into finals.
Let's move on to our next game. I took the Raiders against the Dragons 1-12, and it wasn't looking great for most of this game, but Corey Horsburgh then became the hero that we didn't know we needed, but he's the one we got. And Big Red, he hasn't played many games this year, but he really stepped up in the back end of this game and just managed to drag the Raiders over the line in what was, I would say, a good win to end their season. A nice 3 games in a row to end their season.
100%, mate. Big Red against the Big Red V. It couldn't have scripted it any better. I also had the Raiders winning this one 1-12. And as you said, quite hazy for a lot of that period. But Corey Horsburgh, of all people, to step up the way he did, you would love to see it. And as you said, Raiders with a fantastic end to their season. Dragons, not so much, but that sort of sums up their inconsistent year as well, to be honest.
Yeah, really had it in the palm of their hands with about 2 weeks to go and just fumbled the bag. Can't really say too much more on the Dragons. I think they get better next year. I know a couple of losses with Lomax leaving, but they do get Val Holmes coming in, so that is an admirable replacement, especially with the goal kicking that he is doing at the moment. We took the Dogs against my Cowboys on the weekend, and that just made me look like absolute fools. The Cowboys on the weekend, but I got to say they have been so inconsistent this year that I just couldn't tip them against the best defensive team in the league, but they showed out on offense and really put the sword to the Dogs, who look like they're running out of gas at the moment.
They very much do, the Dogs. I've doubted them all season, and they kept proving me wrong. And now at the back end, where I've put all my faith in them and tipping them myself, I did tip the Cowboys this week, but the weeks prior to this, I put my faith in them, and now they're starting to falter. It's been a big season. They've been really impressive. Mate, what you've done with the Cowboys, though, is essentially what I've done my entire life as a Warriors. I tip against the Warriors. So if they win, I'm happy that they won. But if they lose, I'm happy to get the tip right.
Yeah, it sometimes comes down to that a little bit. I mean, I didn't really need it. I'm not really in contention for any of my tipping comps this year, which is possibly tough to say on a tipping and predictions video. But we digress. And I just feel like for the Dogs, they've really got to find that defense that was working so well for them. But we'll talk about their matchup this week as well. They're back in the finals for the first time in 8 years. It's something to be celebrated. For Penrith, out at Penrith, geez, they did it the hard way against the Titans. And yeah, part of me really thought that the Titans were going to go on in the second half and win this game. Did you see it similarly that I did?
Look, I never saw it playing out the way it did. I really thought the Panthers would have to show up, not just against a Titans team who have already thrown in the towel, but with the disappointing results they've had in the games coming into this, I thought they'd step up. But yeah, when the Titans came out and they scored them tries and they played the way they did, I thought they were a big chance of going on in that second half. And I guess it's credit to the Panthers that they held that off, but I'm more impressed with the Titans in this performance than I was the Penrith Panthers, that's for sure.
Yeah, a bit scrappy, but they got the 2 points, and I think that's just what they wanted at that point in time. They hopefully get Cleary back this week, so we'll see what happens with team lists on that one. Let's move on to Sunday's games, and Sunday's games really decided quite a lot of things as well. We had the Sharks going to Brookvale and getting a victory pretty comfortably in the end. I only had them winning 1-12. I just didn't really see them losing to Manly. I can't really say what it was, but I think for Manly making the finals, especially on the back of last year's efforts, is definitely a plus for them.
Oh, 100%. Like, Manly have got to be happy. I mean, any team making the top 8, you're pretty happy, unless you're those top end teams, and then you setting your sights a little bit higher. But yeah, Manly making the top 8 is definitely a massive, massive win for them. But I was also a bit confused at how many people were tipping the Seagulls over the Sharkies in this one. I thought the Sharkies over the entire season have been far more consistent. And I think they're just coming into finals a bit higher standard than the Seagulls. So I had the Sharkies tipped 1-12. Didn't see them getting as big of a victory as they did. But yeah, I think the Sharkies, they're settling in for a good final series, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing about the win to me was the amount of points that the Sharks put on. Again, like you, had it pretty close, but yeah, the Seagulls just really leaked points, and I think without Tom Trebojevic lacked a bit of attacking spark, but hopefully he comes back in this week. And then we had the 8th versus 9th playoff, and for it to come down to the last game of the regular season to decide who makes the 8, I really wanted the Dolphins to get there just because, you know, they're the new team, the new kids on the block, and I think you and I also have a very similar opinion about the Knights and that they like to play some boring football. And it was a bit of a dour affair, to tell you the truth. There wasn't a lot of points scored. It was very defensive from both teams in the end. There was a call that probably robbed the Dolphins of a try that I didn't really think needed to be called. But the Knights, they grabbed the 8th spot in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it a little bit in the chat, didn't we? Talking about how we don't really see the Knights as much more than just Kalen Ponga this year, and even last year to a degree. But last year I thought they were playing better attacking footy. This year I don't see anything from them. I haven't thought they've deserved it all year. I think the Dolphins have been there or thereabouts for most of the season. I had them winning this one. I had them winning at 13 plus, which obviously, joke's on me. But yeah, it was a bit of a dour affair in the end. Yeah, that call, I also agree with you. I don't think it should have been called back. I think that's a try every day of the week, in my opinion, especially someone who plays footy. If you're out there playing that and that goes against you, it's just like, what are you meant to do as a player? You can't do anything better than that. But in the end, they should have asked a few more opportunities, the Dolphins, and you've got to give the Knights defense a solid shout out, to be honest.
Yeah, the Knights' defense has been pretty solid all year. They are the 6th best defensive team in the competition, but I guess the 16th best attacking team. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in the finals this week up against the Cowboys in North Queensland. But, guys, just the 5 out of 8 tips correct there this week. Would have hoped to do a little bit better in the last round of the regular season, but we go all the way to the grand final this year on our tipping comp via nrltipping.com. And as for the tipping comp, here is the standings currently, and Callan has shot into first place. The Dark Knight, he was out of the race the last couple of weeks, but has shot into first place there with the Usherman Steve coming in second at the moment, and North Sydney Bears, who previously had the lead last week. Chris from North Sydney Bears is now in third position. Guys, keep putting in your tips each and every week. And we also have a big announcement this week, guys. I wanted to grab your attention for a moment. We are running with TBC Live, a new tipping comp for the finals. That's right. We are going into the finals this year with TBC Live. If you haven't downloaded it already, Foody and I are on there all the time, chatting, making predictions, having a lot of banter with a lot of people. And this year we are running a finals tipping comp, and it is dynamic in the sense that you will be rewarded for tipping against the favorite. That's right. That's one of my biggest gripes with all tipping comps. You get 1 point for tipping against the favorite, whether you tip the favorite or you don't. And in this competition, we reward you for making bold predictions. And if you get into the tipping comp, guys, the winner will get a free jersey. So the link is in the description. Please make sure that you download TBC Live and join in the fun. Foodie and I will definitely be there, guys. And let me know down in the comments section once you've downloaded TBC Live. Comment, I'm in. I can't wait for the finals. Let's do this. Something to let me know that you are in the race for that jersey of your choice. What does that sound like to you, Foodie? Sounds exciting.
Oh, sounds unreal. I mean, in the end, you're risking nothing to win a chance at a free jersey. And at worst, you're having a bit of banter, having a bit of fun with people in the app. Like, as you said, we are on that all the time, TBC Live. It's more than just, getting on there and making predictions and trying to win the prizes. It is just having banter with more people out there. You can be sitting down watching the game, and if you're at home with no mates or no misses, you can just tune into the TBC Live app and make some predictions, make some tips, and just chat amongst it. And it's really, really good. And as you said, just get amongst the tipping, good prize at the end. What's not to love?
Absolutely. Free to download, free to join in the fun. So, guys, go to your local app store to get that today. And the link is in the description. Now, Foodie, let's get onto what we came here to do today. That is to preview the tips and predictions from both you and I for the finals week 1 this year. And we are going to be starting with Bluebet Stadium on Friday night, where the Panthers will be taking on the Roosters. Now, the last 2 times these teams have played in a finals game, the margin has been by 1 point in the favour of Penrith, but obviously the record that the Roosters have against them at the moment isn't great. They've lost their last 9 games in a row against them.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough one. You mentioned, betting against the favourites coming in the finals. I'm really hard pressed to know who's going to be favourites in any game at this point. Like, coming into this game, you want to say Penrith because, well, the Panthers in the past 3 seasons that they've had, but they're coming in on a lot of bad form, in my opinion. But they're also coming up against the Roosters side with those injuries. Look, I don't know where to really separate it. I think I'll back the premiership and the force that is the Panthers, especially with Nathan Cleary potentially returning. I would probably be backing them in this one, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I feel like the Roosters this year, and I've been tooting my own horn a little bit about this. They've won 3 out of 10 games against top 8 opposition this year. And while the attack, yes, it's very good to look at. This game is great to look at when, from one perspective, where it's the best attack going against the best defense in the competition. And once again, the Panthers come into the finals as the best defensive team. I mean, pull the other one. I think it's just a lock at the moment whether they're going to be the best defensive team in the comp. Obviously, with the stutters of the last couple of weeks of the Bulldogs. But what I'm getting to with the Roosters is I feel like they have not really stepped up in big games this year, and they've been one of the biggest flat track bullies of the season. And Penrith aren't, this little kid that you can bully on the playground. They are the bullies. They are the chief bully. They will kick it to corners. They will pin you in your own end. And if you can't, get an early shift or find a way to disrupt their momentum, get the ball out of play, get your team a rest, then they will just murder you with pressure. Do you see that unfolding this week again for the Roosters? Can their attack flourish?
Oh, look, I don't know how much their attack can flourish at the moment in general. They scored 34 points, which is nothing to scoff at, but that is also against the Rabbitohs. I think just without the creativity of Sam Walker, the strike of even, someone like Victor Radley, your ball playing forward through the middle, Nafahu White filling in last week, it's more of just another stock standard front rower that you've put into that 13 jersey. I don't know if they can. Like, I'm definitely not going to doubt it against the Roosters attack, but against the Panthers defense is the big thing. In the end, the old adage is that defense wins premierships. So, yeah, for me, I can't back against the Penrith Panthers.
Yeah, see, I feel like there is a way that I can see the Roosters winning this game, and they've got to get out to a hot start. I feel like Penrith have really been lacking this year in terms of getting a quick start and then maintaining that sort of level. I think as well against Parramatta, we saw them start really slowly, and Parramatta being who Parramatta are, let them back into the game in the space of 5 minutes. The Roosters haven't been great on defense this year as well, and I think with Cleary back in the side, he definitely adds that attacking spark that they need, and he will provide more options for their outside men. A couple of matchups that I love seeing in this one is Liam Martin going against Angus Crichton this week. I'm really interested to see if Gus Crichton, who's possibly been the Dally M second rower of the year, if he can get one on his New South Wales teammate.
I think he's a lock for Dally M second row of the year this year, Angus Crichton. I think it's one of, if not his best season to date. And the fact that he was left out of the early rounds of the season is just, it's crazy to see what he's been able to accomplish this season. But I'm as with you, really excited to see that matchup. Liam Martin, particularly known for his defense, and even if it's not, really adept defensively in certain, shapes or whatnot, it's the aggression he brings. If he's hitting you, he's out to injure you, he's out to wallop you and set the tone for his side. So I'm really excited to see them go up against each other, especially because they're teammates on that New South Wales origin level. Is there going to be that respect for each other, or is it just we're against each other? You're my enemy in this one. So can't wait to see that matchup, to be honest, mate. I think it is one of my favorite matchups of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, no doubt will be an absolute blockbuster game out at Penrith on Friday night. Last game at Penrith Stadium as well. I'm going to go with you on this one. I do feel like the Panthers get a win here, but I do expect it to be close just because of the finals games that these two teams have played against each other in the past. I know a lot of the games over the last 5-year period. I mean, they haven't won a game against Penrith since 2019 at this point, the Roosters. So Penrith, the proof is in the pudding, so I'm going to back Penrith 1-12. I assume you are in the same boat.
Panthers, yeah. I reckon they will be sticking it to them for the middle part of the game, and if at the end the Roosters tire and give up some points again, I think that's where the Panthers explode. But I'll also back in the 1-12.
Yeah, Panthers flip the switch and get it done on Friday night. Let's move on to Amy Park for our second game on Saturday at 4:05 p.m. 4:05, weird time. But anyway, the Storm taking on the Sharks now. The Sharks got a win down in Melbourne earlier this year in May, but over the last 3 finals games that they've played against Melbourne, they've only won the one, but it was the one that counted, which was the 2016 grand final. Foody, can Cronulla repeat what they did earlier this year in Melbourne?
I don't know what it is, but I think they can. They're the Storm's bogey side. I don't know how it is. I thought back in the Shane Flanagan days, it was getting them into a grind and just somehow get it done. Nowadays, it's a different footy side that Craig Fitzgibbon has on his hands. But they seem to be able to play that style of footy. And when it comes against the Melbourne Storm, they just get into that grind and they bring them to our level and say, okay, you have to go with us now. I don't know if they will win, but I do expect them to go very, very close. I'm tipping, look, if I had to go a 1-6, I probably would. I reckon it'll be a really, really close one between these two sides, to be honest. And I really like the Sharks' chances.
Yes. See, the thing is for the Sharks, for me, I feel like they're an upgraded version of the Dragons, or what the way the Dragons like to play. They love to use their power game. They have a lot of really above average middle forwards. You'd probably say there's no real standout in that middle forward pack, but guys like Royce Hunt, Toby Rudolph, Hazelton always have the capability of stepping up on their day. And Jack Williams has been an animal in the middle the last few weeks. And Blake Brayley really getting out of dummy half and working the middle quite well, which has taken the pressure off guys like Trindle, Atkinson, and Nico Hines in the past. And I think with Nico having 2 games back, he'll only grow in confidence. But they have lost 6 finals games in a row to this point. And I really think that streak has to come to an end at some point. Do I think it's going to be bang bang again and they're out of the finals? I think it's nearly 2 or 3 years in a row now where they've lost 2 and been straight out of the finals after finishing in the top 4. They're always known as the serial pretenders. They get to the top 4 and they don't do anything with it. Is that the kind of Sharks team that we are watching this year? I think so. And I feel like with the Storm, they've been patchy all year. They've won 8 games this year by 8 points or less. So I think you've really got to take that into account. And I'm kind of in a similar boat with you where I do think it'll be close, but I feel like the Storm will have learnt from their mistakes earlier in the year. They're such a smart finals footy side as well with the experience that they have that I just think they really have the know-how and the capabilities to be able to beat this Shark side who aren't anything to scoff at in terms of finals experience, but I just feel like Melbourne in Melbourne is one of the hardest things to do, especially in the finals.
Oh, 100%. Look, when I say that the Sharks, I think they can get it done. I'm not sure I'm actually going to tip them. I think if I'm going with my head, you've got to take Melbourne and Melbourne. A Craig Bellamy coach side, he's got them there before. I also agree with you that the Storm have been patchy all season. We've been saying it in our podcast at the Chip and Chase that there's no real absolute team to beat because every team has had their ups and downs, and the Storm have been one of them. But I think coming off form right now heading into finals, you can't really doubt what Melbourne are producing. They're hitting their stride. They've got everyone back on deck. I do think they get it done, but I think this is also a massive period for the Sharkies, especially Nico Hines, and a lot of criticism has come mainly on him as well as the Sharks with their performances and going out in straight sets in the first couple of years that he's been at the club. I think this is a stepping up point. I think since coming back from injury, he's looked calm. He's just looked ready for this. He's just warming into it. I don't know if they can do it. Well, I don't know if they will do it, but I think they can. It's just going to be a very tough ask. If this was in Cronulla, I might back the Sharkies, but it is in Melbourne. It is in AAMI Park, and I will back the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm hearing as well that Pappenhausen probably could have played last week. He just would have needed a needle injection. So that's one thing that Storm fans watching can be a little bit relieved about, is that there's nothing wrong with Ryan Pappenhausen. He will suit up this week, and they should be at full strength. They got Xavier Coates back last week as well, and I just feel like the Storm, while they are favourites to win this comp, and while they have been a bit patchy this year, the Sharks have also lost a couple of games where I've thought they could easily go on and win it, and they really faltered, especially in that Warriors game. Didn't really deal with any momentum swings coming the other way, and it was almost like an avalanche. It couldn't be stopped at that point. So I really feel like the Sharks could get out to an early start here, but the Storm have actually been great this year at running teams down, something they're not known for, and I will also be backing the Storm this year, 1-12. So, yep, Storm 1-12 for me, and also Storm 1-12 for Foody there. And we will move on to the main event of this final series, where we have the Cowboys taking on the Knights on Saturday night, primetime. Saturday night, get your teeth into this, guys. These two teams have actually never played a final series against each other, and the Cowboys did beat the Knights earlier this year up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, although it was by 1 point. I do feel like the Cowboys are the form team coming into this game, but the Knights also have shown that their ability to not only attack with Kalen Ponga coming back into the side, they have been one of the best defensive teams in the competition this year. Where do you see this one going, Foodie? I feel like Cowboys are specials, right?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about the special of the first round of finals, but I do like the Cowboys in this one, and I don't know if there's some sort of underlying bias I have against the Knights. I shouldn't. I live in Newcastle. I love going to Knights games. It's good to get around them, but I just haven't thought they've deserved to be here all year. As you said, their defense has been really, really good coming up against a side that's essentially in form, and especially with their attack in the Cowboys to do what they did against the Bulldogs, who, one of the top two defensive teams in the comp. I think heading into finals in North Queensland as well. I think they get this one done. I think they get it done pretty emphatically, but Cowboys have been known to a few slip ups. They're pretty inconsistent. If they just decide that they're not going to be there, if they take the Knights lightly, it could be quite ropey for them. They could be quite difficult, but I will be backing the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I feel like with the Cowboys, they do have a great record in finals, especially up at Townsville. They've won 7 out of their last 8 games as well. Their only loss coming against Para in 2022 in the grand final prelim. I do really think it's one-way traffic in this one, apart from one man. And it's always the one man that you have to speak about when it comes to the Knights. Kalen Ponga. He laid on 2 try assists last week, basically was responsible for all the points for the Knights. And I think if you can stop him, then you stop the Knights. And if the Cowboys can score 20 plus points in this game, then it's over. Like, the Knights are not scoring 20, 30 points in this game. I know the Cowboys have been shaky on defense, but I really just hate the Knights attack. As we said earlier, it is the 16th best attacking team in the competition, and they've somehow made the finals. Do you know the last team to do that, make the finals as the 16th worst attacking team, was in fact the Knights in 2021 as well, and they got bounced for week 1 of the finals. I expect the same thing to happen here. I just feel like, yes, the Cowboys have been inconsistent this year, but we don't lose finals games in Townsville, and I just feel like we get a win 13 plus. I'm going to back my boys to get a win, huge win, 13 plus as well. Do you see it going any other way?
No, I don't, to be honest. And I wish I did. I don't want to be that guy to Knights fans, and I don't see it going any other way. I want to give you guys some hope. And working, I obviously missed the game in person. Would have loved to be there last week. But working and having all the Knights fans come in after the game and so excited, and I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, you're getting bounced out. You're not beating the Cowboys in Townsville. The only thing that I can give them is that the Cowboys have been inconsistent, but it's finals now. Surely you have to be up. Like, as a player, you have to be up that you've made finals. You go into that dressing room, go into the locker room, music blaring, the boys around you. There's no way that you can't get up for it. And the Cowboys at their best or near their best is a league beyond the Knights at their best. So I'll also be taking the Cowboys 13 plus.
Bang. You heard it here first, guys. Cowboys getting a big win up in Townsville. Let's move on to our final game of this final series. And this is possibly one that I think is going to be the closest out of all of them. We have the Bulldogs taking on the Manly Sea Eagles at Accor Stadium on Sunday. And these two teams, they played only just 3 weeks ago. And Manly really showed everyone the blueprint, I would say, on how to beat the Dogs. Foodie, would you say that despite the Dogs possibly not finishing in the top 4 where they had their eyes set on, this season has definitely been a success for them?
Oh, it's been a massive success, mate. I had the Bulldogs still near probably bottom 4, bottom 5 teams in the comp this year heading into the season. And the way that they've been up for every game and battling undersized, I don't think they have the roster. I don't think they have the depth in their squad that when their key players get injured, they can bring people up and really step into those shoes. And they've somehow found a way all season, time in, time out. I just feel like at this point of the season, it takes a lot out of you to be understrength and be the underdogs the entire season, even to now where people are like, okay, maybe the Dogs are the real deal. They've made finals. I've still doubted them. I know there's still people out there doubting them. And it takes a lot out of you to just be doubting against, and keep just fighting above your weight. And, that's why they've dropped a couple games. I think Manly are a big part of it as well. The fact that their attack is just They throw it out of their own end. They're one of the only sides, along with the Cowboys, to be honest, that really just love throwing the ball around out of their own end and making stuff happen. I think they're polar opposites in the way that they play, and it's going to be a really exciting clash. I think in general, though, you've got to be happy as a Bulldogs fan. You'd love to get a win here, and you have every chance to, but we'll have to see what happens, regardless of whether you do or don't. Massive success of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I had him bottom five as well. I had him improving, but not by the
Mm.
margin that they've managed to do it. They just seem like they've run out of gas a little bit the last couple of weeks. I can't really explain it. I do think as well playing that high intensity of a defense for so long, such a long period, that it really does take it out of you. And we've seen that just in games when one team has all the ball and they have to make a lot of tackles, then it could really hurt you towards the back end of games. I've just never really seen it play out over an entire season, and that could be what is happening to the Bulldogs. They do have a good record over Manly, though, in finals. They are 4-1, so that is something to note. Luke Brooks plays his first finals game for the first time in his career after 229 games, a record that I do not think will ever be broken. But how do we see Luke Brooks? Will he step up in this finals game, or will he crumble under the pressure?
Look, I want to say he steps up. I've been so high on Luke Brooks this entire season throughout my podcast. Even since he signed, I was like, amazing signing. Can't wait to see what he does. I think he's been consistent all the way up until the last 3-4 games. He's had a couple shaky ones, including last week where I thought he was quite poor. I think he stands up, though. I think he's just that sort of player. We forget the talent and the accolades on Luke Brooks coming through. He does have that way of just getting up for these big ones. He was 2018 at Dally M Halfback of the Year in another tough season for the Tigers back then. I think with the experience under his belt and with the guys around him, like he still has Daly Cherry Evans at his helm at halfback. I think he gets up for this one, and I think he's going to really thrive in the occasion, to be honest. I can't wait to see how he goes, and I really hope he has a good one because it'd be nothing worse than him having this long of a drought of finals and then coming in having a shocker and getting bounced in his first week. That would be awful for Luke Brooks, and I don't want to see it happen to him, mate.
Yeah, you'd rather be one of one than one of two, and then none of one
Mm.
in your only finals appearance. Yeah, I do agree with you in saying that I feel like Tom Trbojevic comes back for this game. Yes, it was an AC joint injury, and those can be difficult to deal with, but wasn't too bad in the end. I think Luke Brooks was actually the guy who fell on him too, so he'll probably want him to come back for this one, knowing the kind of player that Tom Trbojevic is and how important he is to Manly winning games. I think we saw last week that they could have dearly used him. Especially on the attacking side of the ball. I think he organises the defence a little bit better than someone who's a bit inexperienced, like a Tolutau Kola as well. I think some people don't really take into account the amount that the fullback really directs traffic in terms of telling players where to go in defence, being able to read the play from afar. I think that Manly should get a win, but I feel like it's going to be close in this one, possibly a DCE field goal attached here. But the Doggies at home, this year, they've been virtually unstoppable. Yes, they've dropped the 2 games to Manly and the Cowboys at home this year, leading into the finals, and that's probably not the best thing. But one thing that they will have going for them is that the kennel will be there in big numbers for them. And I just feel like the crowd could get them home in this game. So while I do think that they shouldn't be the favourites at all, the Doggies, I'm going to go with Manly this week, and that's why they're going to be my Hills Cricket Academy lock of the week. Shout out to Hills Cricket Academy. I just feel like Manly have the tools and the experience in finals games, and this Dogs team are young. Yes, they do have guys like Viliami Kikau, Matt Burton, who have played in big finals games before, and Stephen Crichton, who we've seen become Superman at times in big games. I do feel like Manly have it in the bag in this one, and will just be able to do what they did a couple of 3 weeks ago, and really dominate the Dogs up the middle. And that small forward pack is really going to have a tough time.
Yeah, look, I agree, mate. And it sucks now that we've done a couple of these sorts of tipping videos, and I think I've ended up going second and tipping everything that you've said as well. But I'm also going to be backing the Seagulls in this one. We mentioned it. You mentioned it yourself. They did find that recipe and how you beat the Bulldogs a few weeks ago. They have the attack to do so. Even without that, I think if they get into a grind, I don't rate Manly's forward pack all that much, but I still rate them enough to get it done over this Bulldogs forward pack. And you mentioned experience. Now the Bulldogs have some experienced players in Stephen Crichton, in Viliami Kikau, who have been there and have done that. But there's a difference in experience in those games, but then experience with your actual club at the moment. And this Manly group has been together for quite a substantial period now. They were in the finals a few years ago, 2021, on Turbo's massive season. There hasn't been a massive amount of roster changes since then. They're going to be there. They've got Daly Cherry Evans in there. And when it comes to big game experience, he's right up there with the best of all time, Daly Cherry Evans. I think he might be second all time for field goals kicked. And if it comes to a golden point or it comes down to a close one, there's no one in the NRL I want more than Daly Cherry Evans to ice it, to be honest. So I will be backing the Manly Seagulls. The Dogs can get it done, though. I'm not going to doubt against their home crowd as well. Is this played in a core or Belmore?
Yep. It'll be at a core stadium.
Yeah, so, look, if it was Belmore, I think, I'd back the Doggies maybe. I think a core stadium, while the Bulldogs crowd will be there in full force, especially because, of the highs of this season. They've been riding that wave all the way here. They're going to really get around this one, and they're going to back their team home. But a core stadium, I think it's going to be a lot closer to a 50-50 split than we actually expect. Manly Seagulls, it's not that far away. They can get to this ground, and it's a big old stadium to fill out.
Yeah.
I think they can get around it, but hopefully the Bulldogs do win. I would like to see them continue their fairy tale run, but it may end right here because I will be backing the Seagulls 1-12.
Bang, there you have it. Foody 1-12 on the Seagulls. I'm also on the Seagulls 1-12, and we both think field goal could be in it. But guys, that is it for our tipping video this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, please, please go follow my mate Foody on all of his socials. The links are in the description. Foody, maybe just tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up towards the end of the finals, and maybe what you've got going on in the off season as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Look, we're doing a bit of a revamp and still trying to figure that out at the moment for final series. A lot of our content covers regular season stuff, and especially, Supercoach and NRL fantasy stuff, which of course is drawn to a close. So we need to find some content to fill in those gaps and make that a reality. Definitely going to be looking back and doing a bit of a review segment in the form of a podcast and posts over the next couple of weeks of the season and Supercoach. But definitely a few more things that we're going to have in the works, and really want to hear feedback from you guys. If there's something that you want to see that I'm not covering or anyone else isn't covering, let me know. And I want to try and make that a reality over at the Chip and Chase podcast and make it a place for every sort of footy fan. When it comes to the off season, trying to keep semi-accurate, active over that, especially in the form of the podcast, and trying to maybe have a couple weeks off at the back end after the finals, but then try and get into a bit of fun content and have that span the off season before we get right back into it next season. And we've got the plan drawn up for next season. We're going to be back bigger and better than ever. So please stay with us. And if you aren't following, get around us. I'd really love the support.
Awesome stuff. Sounds phenomenal. Hopefully I get an invite on some of that stuff as well. Looking forward to it. Guys, if you haven't downloaded TBC Live, please make sure that you do and enter our finals tipping comp. The link is in the description. If you haven't also, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are getting very close to the 12,000 subscribers mark, and we'll catch you on the next one. Right, Foody?
We certainly will, mate. Thank you very much for having me.